This is my Cadet Pro Z100, and this is classified as a commercial mower. A lot of people say it isn't, but I would say it is because it's advertised and it has a lot of features that a commercial mower should have. The fabricated deck, V-twin engine, heavy duty drive wheel motors, and so on. So it's got a 54-inch cutting deck, and it's a nice mower deck. It's fabricated. You can see how thick the siding is on the deck. It's even got a skid plate which protects the mower deck from scratches, and it's welded, fully welded together. It's not any of that 4th grade engineered John Deere stuff. Those John Deere decks are known for problems, especially on the lower end box store models. And it's not their typical MTD 2nd grade arts and crafts special mower decks either. This is actually designed specifically for Cub Cadet mowers. These will outlast stamped decks a long margin. They won't rust as fast, and they also won't really they won't really fall apart as fast. I'll show you a couple mowers that I have that have decks falling apart. Now, this could have been similar to commercial applications. Here's this time cutter. I've been going through all this, so sorry if it's messy. See, the deck is already missing some parts. Some of the skirting is about going here. This was my time cutter. It's in bad shape. The deck's caving in, which is common on these Toros. It's just a flimsy deck. And this is a good mower for residential use, but not good for commercial. So there's a snapper with a Craftsman mower deck, and these decks seem to be better than these decks. And the snapper stamped decks are pretty decent. And then you got the Murray decks, which are awful. Those are awful mower decks. Seems like it's either John Deere, Murray, or most MTD decks that have a lot of issues. And you can see it's got a fold-up discharge chute, which doesn't have a spring release. You can fold that up and get through a gate, but it's missing one. Mine is missing. The spindle covers are missing. You just have to loosen thumb screws and take it out. And so now let's go over the control panel. It's got electric PTO. You turn the switch on, hit the clutch engage. It's got, this is a toggle switch. Originally this was used to shut the engine down because I had a Briggs on it originally. When I bought it, I bought this mower, and I'll tell you the story on how I got this mower towards the end of the video. This engine was blown up. I rebuilt it, and I had put a Briggs & Stratton Intech V-twin. It lasted a couple months, and then the engine went out. Then I put a opposed twin Briggs, ran well until it ran out of oil and locked up. And then I decided to put a single cylinder command to move it because I needed to put it somewhere out of the way. That engine had no power at all. So I then just said, you know what, how about I just find an engine? And I needed an engine right away. And it just made no financial sense to me to buy a brand new engine. And I had already ordered a kit for this engine by then. I ordered a gasket set because I chose to rebuild the engine because I had an idea pop up in my head where I could try to put a metal cam in it. This engine had failed because of the camshaft going out. I'll go to more on that in a minute. But on this one, you got your PTO switch, your key switch, your throttle control, you got your levers. Now, it doesn't have a choke, but I'll tell you some more things about this mower. Is that originally it was an EFI engine. It was originally EFI. I took all that nonsense off and made it into a carbureted engine. It's carbureted now. But in order to choke it, I have to either use starting fluid to spray it or put my hand over the choke. And, you know, this engine originally had a busted camshaft, which I went to look at the mower because the guy I bought it from lives down the street, he wanted me to look at it, and we looked at it. When I looked at the valves, they would not open and close, and that was due to the camshaft busting open, or busted. So I bought it from them, and it went through 2 engines because I used it. Then I decided to rebuild this Kohler engine because it was meant specifically for this machine. It had a plastic camshaft, and I replaced a few parts. I had a SV710, the one that came off of that time cutter. I managed to take the crankshaft out of it, and I used some CV pistons in this EZT engine, which is the model type information for this engine. I put some CV pistons. I decarboned the heads, new head gaskets, new piston rings, and I put a carburetor. There was a lot to it. I'm going to have a list of what I've done to it. And then I ended up getting it running, and it runs amazingly well. It runs well, but it smokes like a freight train when it starts up. But it runs well. It sounds like a diesel at idle, though. It may sound like a diesel at idle, but it works. And then it's got a issue with the EFI, which I don't feel comfortable running EFI on my equipment because it's just too much headache. I prefer a simple carburetor because in the small engine industry, EFI has just been straight up unreliable for these lawnmowers. Now, I also added 2 batteries on it, like a semi-truck. It's got 2 12-volt batteries. They're down there. There's 2 12-volt batteries coupled together for extra cranking power, especially in the cold, because where I'm located, there's no telling what the weather's going to be like. One day it'll be warm, the next day it's going to be a little mild, and then the next day, in our area the weather changes all the time. Like today it's really cold outside, and the grass obviously isn't growing because it's off season, and of course it kind of snowed in a way, but it was kind of like sleet, and I couldn't get the engine to crank, so I put 2 batteries, and it fired right away. And if you look, there's 2 batteries there. I got 2 lawnmower batteries on there, and they're going to be a hassle to get out, I can tell you that now. And that's one of the things I've done to it. Then this mower has 2 fuel tanks. It's got 2 fuel tanks, and knowing how expensive gasoline is, you could probably spend a lot of money filling this whole thing up. This has 2 fuel tanks on each side. There's one on this side too. And there's your dial to change which tank you want it to run on, which is pretty cool. You can see my lotto pick keychain right there, 649. That's pretty cool keychain. That came from one of the mowers I got. Now, a lot of these mowers, I actually happen to work at a lawnmower shop, and because I do lawnmower repair there now. I'm a mechanic there now. I used to be a custodian, and there's also a hardware store, and I would help out customers and all that. Still do, but I'm working on stuff now, and a lot of this came from there. And I ended up using parts off of some of them. I got some of them running. Most of these mowers came from there. Anyway, these these mowers originally are generally too expensive to fix, or just customers never picked up. And they did not want to take them to the scrap yard, so they gave them to me because they knew I could do something with them or use them for parts. And that's what my boss did. My boss gave those mowers to me. A lot of them I got running, a lot of them I parted down. So I have a video on it, but it's even more scattered, and I plan to do a much more professional video of it. So, and I use some parts for those mowers. And then this Cub Cadet has a really interesting transmission system. I mean, it's got ZT3400 hydro gears, which are advertised as commercial grade transmissions. It's got a fill that does not need to be topped off because it'll obviously overflow, because that's the overflow tank for the hydraulics drive system. because zero turns use differential steering on these. And that's really cool. It's got a hitch. These zero turns are not meant to pull or haul stuff. Probably less than what I wouldn't haul anything more than just sticks and branches. I wouldn't pull stuff like that, like those lawnmowers. This thing's not meant for that. That's when you get an old garden tractor to do that sort of work. I got a Gravely that can do that sort of work. But these ZT3400s I read are good transmissions. They have an oil filter in them. Some say they're fully serviceable, some say they're not. You know, a lot of transmissions these days are non-serviceable. The Time Cutter's got non-serviceable transmissions, and I think it's silly. I think you should be able to service it. In other words, you can get the transmission taken apart, but you wouldn't be able to get parts for it. You know, there was a transmission company called General Transmissions, and they were horrible transmissions. They were just awful transmissions. They were crap. And that was a big flop. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of business, because those transmissions were plastic and they just could not handle situations very well. So, and this Cub Cadet seems to be very well made for an MTD product. You know, I've read on these mowers and people were actually very happy with them. I'm happy with this mower, and you know, it's been a good mower. I'm not selling it. It's got let's see how many hours I put on it, because it's held up for the amount of hours it has. My Time Cutter would have fell apart with this many hours. Wait for it to go. 588 hours. 588.4 hours. So there's a light switch, but the lights aren't hooked up. And then you can get a 12-volt auxiliary outlet there. That you can put your 12-volt outlet. But this one didn't come with one. And this is where your power bagger assist would go, because you had to have a blower system for the bagger. You had to have a blower system for the bagger in order for it to put clippings into the bag. Now, I have no desire to own a track vac. And I definitely have no desire to have one of those tow behind lawn sweepers, because they're very hard to put together. And the track vacs, just honestly, the track vacs would be useful, but for what I do, I don't need one. I don't have enough trees to need one. And plus, of course, I prefer side discharge. It just makes the yard look much more professionally done, and plus, and that's just what I prefer. Because it doesn't, if you mulch, you're just going to choke the lawnmower down. You would choke the lawnmower down if you are cutting tall grass. If you were maintaining your yard every week, that's one thing. But if you're just mowing thick grass, you would need something like the side discharge. Now, I've also seen these Pro Z100s at the dealership. In the Cub Cadet dealership that this mower came from is closed, and due to a family emergency. They had an emergency meeting, and they said it would be best to shut the lawnmower shop down, because they had a refrigeration business also. They did like restaurants and schools and all that. So they did a lot of commercial refrigeration. They made way more money doing refrigeration than the small engine business. That's from what the Rotary rep for our dealer said. And I'm not going to say the name of the dealer for privacy reasons. I'm not going to say where I'm located for privacy reasons. So, and that's just how it's going to be. And so I work at the place I bought that my DR came from. So they're a hardware and small engine shop. But you know, there's a few lawnmower shops around here, and you know, they're really nice people at the ones around here, except for one, but I'm probably giving away too much detail. One more thing I should go over is the seat. This is much better than the couch, than a couch in my opinion. It's a smooth, comfortable seat. It doesn't have lumbar support, but it's got armrest, seat belt. You can slide. I wish it could recline though. That would be nice if the seat could recline. It's a suspension seat, which I think is pretty cool. And I don't know who made the seat. I would have to do some research on that, but it's a really comfortable seat for a mower that doesn't have wheel suspension, like let's say a Ferris or the Toro My Ride. So these are good mowers. I'd get another one in a heartbeat. Would I recommend it? Yes. But they don't make this model anymore, and they don't make it anymore in favor for their Ultima series, from what I've heard. Now, however, if you buy one used, please make sure you check the engine camshaft. If you got a Kohler, you'll want to be aware of the camshaft braking at around 200-400 hours. And then if it's got a Kawasaki, that's not really a concern. They're both great engines. You know, Kohler, Kawasaki, you can't go wrong with them. And you know, these are much easier to work on than Briggs engines, I can tell you that now. But you know, I'd recommend Kohler if they would put a metal camshaft in their engines. So thank you for watching. Bye.